Okay. There we go.
Hi. Hold on a second. We gotta switch the baby. Okay, go with Granny. Go with Granny. I know. Go with Granny, okay?
Oh,
You want to say hi to Corona? You want to say hi? You remember her?
Chloe. Oh no.
She's tired.
You said she's tired.
She hasn't taken a nap today yet. But we're trying
Oh.
to keep her up because it's almost time for bedtime, and she's been up really late at night.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see if we can do like a sound check. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How's this?
Do I sound clear?
Yeah, you. Hold on a second. I'm just gonna pass her over. Okay.
Who has a Melvin?
No, my mom's here. I'm in Milwaukee. Say hi.
Ooh, hey mom. Girl, you be getting around.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, I'm gonna try to prop my phone so I won't have to keep holding it.
Okay.
See if I can get better lighting, maybe. It's not gonna be the best because I have to use the lamp but that's actually better.
That's better for you?
Was it better or am I more in the dark?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Oh, okay. Well, let me close the door.
You're good, Lydia. It's okay.
I ain't worried about it then. How are you?
That's the Lydia I know.
Girl, you see what I'm wearing? I was like, I'm not even dressing up for this.
So, I mean, I feel like this is laid back, casual, and we just want to connect with the viewers to just inspire them. I mean, everyone is kind of in this quarantine mode, you know.
Right.
See, I don't have on no dress. I'm just regular.
Girl, you did your hair and put makeup on. Like, I don't know.
All right, let's get straight into it.
Hold
Wait
on.
a minute, we did say
This might be a
8.
little too much info for the viewers, but I gotta fix my bra
No,
strap.
no,
Okay.
no, but it's live, Lydia.
It
It's
is.
live.
I know. I'm just putting my bra strap back on. That's all. You can edit this
Okay,
part out.
mommy.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Balls. All right. And it was just a tad. It's a neutral tone makeup anyway. Okay. So the sound is good on my end. The sound is good on your end. The lighting is perfect. Oh, it's so good to see you. I cannot wait till this is over. You know, we kept saying we're going to travel to Cali, Al and Chantel. So we're going to
Yeah.
make our way soon.
Y'all can still come. Y'all been quarantined.
All right, so I'm going to get ready to transition
Mm-hmm.
into it. All right, so good evening, my community viewers. Welcome to our second week of 40 Minutes for You. For those who may not know me, my name is Corona Boston. I'm an art therapist, psychotherapist, and owner of Artversity, where I specialize in therapeutic services, literacy work, and social events. So last week we had our guest speaker, Benjamin Atanga, a business owner, who came on to talk about self. So that stood for staying empowered, liberated, and faith-based on 2020. So as we continue to navigate through this pandemic, people are still experiencing loss from every angle. So over the next few months, I just want to bring on my friends in the mental health profession, or in their experts in their respective fields, come and share their story, give tips, to hopefully motivate and inspire, to let you know that even during these trying times, we can still thrive and survive it. Okay, so this week's topic is a special dear topic to me, and it's called Reading Between the Lines of Art. Like I said earlier, people always ask, what is art therapy? How does that translate into traditional therapy? So tonight we're going to get into the nooks and crannies of all of that, where we're going to learn a little bit about what is art therapy, how it impacts our mental health. We're also going to learn a little bit about spiritual counseling, along with how our guest speaker is able to balance life, when it comes to being a mother, a wife, and a clinical professional. Because it's just me, and I be hanging on by a thread sometimes. So whatever she has to share, I hope someone is able to take something away. So without further ado, we have Miss Lydia Turner, art therapist, spiritual formational counselor. So let's just get into it. What is art therapy, and what made you want to explore this creative modality?
Okay. Well, people always ask me, what is art therapy? When you say, I'm an art therapist, they be like, oh, okay. And then they'd be like, what is that? And so I've learned to do it in one sentence, which is, I always say, well, it's a creative way to be able to express yourself, a thought or a feeling, besides using words. And I always say, how people go to counseling and they sit on the couch and they talk about their feelings. Well, they come to me and they sit at a desk and they make art and talk about their feelings. So that's how I kind of briefly explain what art therapy is. But you and I both know it's way more than that. But usually people are like, oh, okay, and leave it at that.
So it sounds like do you feel, because everyone has their own style, and that's the cool thing about being a therapist. You can take this modality and implement it based on your own preference. So do you feel as though, in order to get the most out of art therapy, some of the misconception is I have to be an artist, so I need to know how to draw?
Wait, what's the question again? Ask me again.
So do you feel as though, based off of your style of implementing therapy, that in order to get the most out of it, the client needs to have some type of artistic background? Is that necessary?
No, not at all. So I don't think it has anything to do with artistic ability. I always say you just have to have like a desire to express yourself, and anything that you put on the piece of paper is a form of expression. So even just a line or a dot expresses something about how you're thinking or feeling or who you are as a person. So I don't think you have to have any artistic ability. In fact, I prefer the people that don't, because usually they're the ones that make the best pieces, right? Like, because they don't have that artistic ability, they're not thinking about it, and they're just using it as a form to express themselves. So yeah, no, I always say no artistic ability needed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like that's my style as well. I like what we learned. For those who don't know, Leah and I, we attended the same graduate program at Drexel University, but what I took away was it's not about the art product as much as it is about the process of making the art and what kind of comes out and is projected onto whatever you're creating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, based on your experience, do you feel like when it comes to people who say, you know what, I want to get a little bit more into art therapy, I tried traditional therapy, I'm now open to holistic forms. Do you think that any type of diagnosis, whether it's a mood disorder, um, or psychosis or personality type that may make engaging in art therapy challenging or not?
Um, I think almost everybody can use the mode of art therapy. Obviously, if that's not your comfort level, I always say we can make you comfortable, but the reality is that some people just don't enjoy making art. And I think that like it's okay to respect that and to say, okay, well, what do you enjoy? So some it's like creating poetry, it's dance,
Mm.
it's spoken word, it's music of some type of playing some kind of musical instrument. So I feel like those are all under that creative counseling element. But yeah, art therapy, I think anybody can do. Um, I don't think there's a certain population that wouldn't be fit for.
Wow.
I know though, I'll say this, the ones
Uh-huh.
that had autism, and it wasn't across the board, but they really had a difficult time with it because it was like, they didn't like to imagine. They wanted it to be straightforward
Mm.
and make sense. And so if it was anything that caused them to have to draw something that was not true or believable, it was hard for them to do. But I mean, then they can draw what they see, or like art therapy is so beautiful in the fact that you don't have to be stuck in a box. You can change it to fit the person and what they need.
It's so multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So another modality that I want to dive straight into is what is spiritual counseling, and what made you want to explore that avenue as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I think there's a broad spectrum, right? Like there is your body, soul, and spirit. And so obviously, spiritual counseling is attending to your spirit. But I think I'm a little bit more specific in the fact that I acknowledge that there is something greater than us. And for me personally, that's the person of God. And so for me, spiritual counseling is helping people connect to that person of God, being able to identify their beliefs, their feelings, their interactions with that person of God, and like getting to a healthier place in the relationship with Him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What? What you was about to say, Lydia?
Well, I was gonna say, for me, it's him, but like I know that for other people, it could look different. So I don't want to put that pronoun on there and put people in a box in that way either. So yeah. So I always just say the person of God.
I like that. Good point. And so it sounds like your style is a little bit different from traditional. So you have the art therapy, you have the spiritual counseling. So how does that tie into mental health and mental wellness? Like how does that translate and is able to um, promote healthy mental health recovery goals?
So and this is my personal belief. Well, let me back up. So when I graduated from Drexel, we went
Mm-hmm.
into the professional realm, right? And I started working at a psych hospital, and then I eventually worked in my own. I worked at a practice with about 15 other clinicians. And a lot of times when people come together or come to counseling, it's because they have a negative thought, feeling, or behavior, and they want it to be
Mm-hmm.
changed to something positive. So great, cool. We can work on that. What are your goals? Like, let's identify the problem. What are your goals to fix that and change that problem? But what I was seeing is people were getting better, right? They were developing coping skills. They were having a healthier lifestyle, emotionally, mentally, or like behaviorally, things were getting better. But like after a month, 6 months, a year, they kept coming back. And I was like, God, what am I missing here? What's the missing link? And what he showed me was that like they're missing me. Like they can't do this work without me. And
Hmm.
so the way that I've chosen to blend it, or the way that I take my approach or my niche or whatever you want to say, is that like we are going to work on changing these dysfunctional behaviors, thoughts, and feelings, but we're going to invite God into that process. And you know, as we invite him into this process, we're going to go into like the deeper stuff, like your life experiences or the woundings that have happened in your past or the ruptures that have caused this to happen, and where was God in all of that, and how did he see it happening, and like what's his perspective of it, and really helping people to like experience a deeper level of healing. I always say that it's like digging up the root, you know, so much of counseling is like pulling up the weed but not digging up the root. And with
Yes, come through with those metaphors.
like with spiritual counseling or formational prayer, we're digging up the root, right? We're figuring out what caused the dysfunctional behavior, thought, or feeling. And we're inviting God to enter into that and help us dig that up. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken with my counseling.
Okay, and it's maybe something you can answer, right off top, but can you think of an art directive that you actually used in your session that was able to promote just what you spoke about, like pulling up, going a little bit deeper and pulling up the root?
Well, the one that I often use at the very beginning is we want to get a good sense of how they perceive God, right? And a lot of people will say, oh, you know, I know that God loves me. I know that he cares for me. I know that he has my best interest in mind. And then you say, well, draw a picture of you and God interacting. And it's like, God is way up in the sky, not paying attention to what's happening to them down below, right? And so there's like this huge disconnect. And so creating imagery like that helps give them a visual of like, okay, well, I'm saying this, but internally I'm feeling something different and it's not matching up. And so like that's a great place to start with. Okay, well, so now that we have a more realistic perspective of how you see God, let's get a better connection. Like, what is it that we need to do so that you can hear or receive from him in order to be able to move in healing in these different areas? um, so that's one directive that I've done with people that incorporates art therapy and just their relationship with God.
I like that. It's like a dual approach, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And as you were explaining that directive, I don't even know if that's what happened, but I actually visualized that taking place. And like one thing that came to my mind is that art therapy really does serve as a visual language,
Mm-hmm.
and it really does help, when you're creating and you're tapping into, um, and it's a little bit on you know me, a little bit on the psycho dynamic spectrum, but I feel like with art therapy, you can really dive deep into the subconscious, unconscious, and when it's something about being in that art making process where you have no distractions, no interruptions, and you get an opportunity to just reflect, and then you begin to like dig deep into, like you said, the past, and everything begins to just unfold on that piece of paper. And then when you're done making, because sometimes you don't even realize it until the artwork is done.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, I mean, it's just that verbal association. So tell me a little bit about that, your art, or tell me what you see. And then they can make, and I love it because they're able to come to this awareness sometimes on their own when they look at the artwork that they make. And people have to realize that art is truly an extension of your mind, of your soul, of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your past, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Leah, this gets me so excited. Okay, so let's kind of get, because we were talking a little bit about it. Yes, Mark. It's good to see you, Mark. I'm not, but you know I have my moments. But you spoke a little bit about it a few moments ago, and some people, especially when we talk about trauma survivors, how do you know when healing is actually taking place?
Hmm. That's a really good question. The only thing I can compare it to is like physical healing. So I've never broken a bone before until like a couple years ago. And obviously, when I broke that bone, like my body, or well, at least where it got broken, my foot, it was all swollen. I couldn't walk, it hurt. And it totally put me off balance. You would think that a bone this little wouldn't cause that much damage, but like I couldn't drive, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. Like I had to figure out how to like live with that. So I was like on crutches, right? Um, I had to have people drive me around. I was like dependent on other people to function. And I feel like when we are unhealthy and dysfunctional, there is a lot of that. Like we are dependent on either people or things in our lives to make us feel better, to numb the pain, to protect us from the pain, to meet a need that's inside of us that's unmet, or kind of like we use these crutches to punish ourselves, whether it be purposeful or not. And so I feel like when you're unhealthy and dysfunctional. And health, because you feel better. You're not so dependent on other people. And for me, with spiritual direction and formational prayer, it's helping people be dependent on God and letting God provide what it is, or the source of your needs, right? Whether it be that you need to be loved, accepted, understood, feel safe, have a sense of belonging. It's really helping people find those core longings in their relationship with God. And as they find those things, I feel like God attends to those parts of us that are dysfunctional. So as we feel loved by Him, as we feel understood, as we feel like He connects to us, then it's like, okay, we can look at these areas and say, well, do I still need this crutch? Do I still need this dysfunctional behavior? Or do I still need to feel or think this way? And He attends to that. And so I feel like it's a healing process that some people, or a lot of people, try to do on their own, but I really don't think can happen until you do it with God.
Yeah.
Just because He's the one that does the healing. It's through your relationship with Him that He heals you and makes you whole. So I think that's a different perspective from other people, because people would like to say, okay, I'm going to wear the cast. I'm going to stay off my foot for, so many weeks. Like they put a lot of control in their hands. And I think that makes you better, but I don't know if that's the healing piece. So I think it can fix you temporarily, but I don't know if it makes you feel whole or complete again. Does that make sense? Or is it
No, I mean, or is it what?
confusing? Do I need to elaborate more?
No, I mean, and again, if the viewers, if you have any questions, please feel free, because I know sometimes talking about art, especially as we tie it into therapy and spirituality, for some it can sound and be a little bit abstract. But again, you're here to kind of provide clarity around that as the expert. But it sounds like what I just heard was when you are, like you said, not in that well space, that it's a level of codependency that you develop, where you try to self medicate, whether it's on other people or whether it's developing obsessions that is not allowing you to, like you said earlier, get to the root, but more so numb it.
Yeah.
And, the beauty about it is when you actually start to do the work. Like I always tell my clients, there's no such thing as getting over it. We're going to have to get through it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as you are going through that, I think it's a transformational experience that's taking place where you are both learning how to deal with the pain while also being equipped and strengthened to handle the pain. So then, what you once relied on to self medicate it no longer serves its purpose because you found another alternative that is healthier.
Yeah. And I think, and this doesn't apply to all practices.
Yeah.
And this is why I find spiritual counseling or spiritual direction to be beautiful, because the pain that you're experiencing, it's not learning how to cope with it. It's not learning how to numb it out. It's not learning, how to, whatever you might do. It's like learning how to give that pain to God, let Him hold that pain,
Mhm.
and Him replace it with peace, understanding, love, contentment. So I feel like that's what's really different about this work is I feel like in regular counseling, we did a lot of helping people figure out what to do with that pain in hopes that it would ease the pain eventually. But I feel like healing, especially with God, He takes it away. Um,
Mm.
he alleviates it or gets rid of it completely. Maybe not right away, but eventually.
It's a process, going back to your analogy of not just pulling up the weed, but the root. Even with planting that new seed of peace, takes time to develop into a beautiful flower.
Well, and you can't do the something new until you get rid of the old, right? So like
Right.
when you think about a garden, you have to pull up the weeds first before you plant something new. If you put the new plants with the weeds are going to choke out whatever new plants you're trying to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Thank you for sharing this, Lydia. I love this dual approach to what you're bringing into your um, therapeutic and wellness space.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a difference between spiritual healing and emotional healing, or do you feel like they're one and the same?
I think they're very different. So, like I said already, I think spiritual healing is really helping someone connect with the person of God. If there's a dysfunctional thought, behavior, feeling in regards to who God is, it's helping them figure out what that is and helping them come to a place of feeling loved, accepted, understood, significant, a sense of belonging with Him. So that's spiritual healing. I think
Yeah.
emotional healing is dealing with those negative feelings, those painful experiences, and the feelings that come up with that. And so I think that's separate because you're focusing on one part of the whole. Does that make sense? Like the whole for spiritual is focusing on your whole being and how that relates to God, whereas emotional is one part of who you are and attending to that. And you can attend to that with God, or you can attend to that with other people. But I think
Mhm.
emotional healing is different from spiritual healing.
Got it. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we continue, get ready to kind of conclude, like I said earlier, you are such an example, and um, as a mother, a wife, a professional to so many other people out here. Like, how do you balance all of those responsibilities when it comes to your mental health? And what are some tips for people who, in mothers who, or fathers, who's in that same situation where you have to not only be able to give to yourself, but also give to those that's connected to you under the same roof as well.
This is something I'm currently trying to figure out. So my little one is only a year and a half, and I pretty much took the first year of her life not completely off. I went back to work after 3 months, but I worked very limited hours. I was part time so that my main focus could be on Chloe, and I think that's like it's a privilege that I have. I'm married and I have a husband that can work. Because if it was just me, it's like, well, we would have had to work something out. But because he works, I could take some time getting back into things. But now I'm kind of back into things. I'm going back to school to be a doula. I am seeing clients. I'm still being a wife, trying to be anyway. That's kind of lacking, but you're wrong. And then being a mother. And so one of the things I recently started to do was like, I'm a part of this mommies group. I started this thing called Mama Soul Care. And I've started asking like older moms, like, what are you doing to balance your self-care? Like, how do you focus on yourself? How do you focus on your relationship with God? How do you focus on your child? Your connection with safe others? Like, how do you do all of this? And like, nobody has any answers. Uh, so I feel like this is a problem that's not just me, and that like regardless of the age of your children, mothers struggle with. So right now I'm in the process of figuring out what that looks like. So I'm actually doing this thing called Mama Soul Care Challenge, where like you focus on these 5 areas of connection. So connecting with yourself, or being intentional about connecting in these 5 ways. So connecting with yourself is probably, it's huge. Like, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? And why? What do I need in this moment? Connecting with God, because obviously, like, if you're gonna make it through, you gotta have some dependency on Him. And then, like, I need to connect with, or be intentional about connecting with my child, be intentional about connecting with my husband, and like, I need to connect to safe other people. So those are like my 5 connection options. And like weekly, I'm like sitting back and evaluating, how am I connecting? How am I being intentional? What is the goal that I have for myself, whether it be this week? And it could be something very simple. So like, this is gonna sound bad, but one of my goals is like,
what is it, Lydia? Spill it.
I'm about to do it. So like, you know, like I said, I'm really bad on the husband piece. It's like, you know, he comes in the house and I'm throwing the baby at him, like, take her, I need a break. And so I'm wanting to be more intentional about how I like connect with him, and like at least making the effort to touch base with him. And so, you know, our time together is at dinner, and it's like, we have 30 minutes where we sit, no phone, no nothing. And it's like, well, how are you doing? How was your day? And like talking back and forth. And so that's like one of my intentions right now. That's a way to connect with my husband without yelling and screaming and being all irritated, you know, like a pleasant conversation. So in every area of my life, I'm trying to figure out what are my intentions with those relationships and how can I connect in the midst of my busyness. And that's, I think, huge. I'm realizing that like, gone are the days where I have all the hours to myself. Like, I have very limited time. And so it's like, how do I make this work in the midst of my busyness? So that might be 2 minutes here or 5 minutes of connection here. Gone are the days of the long hours of, you know, spending an hour in quiet time or spending an hour by myself, chilling and relaxing. So taking a few minutes here and there to attend to those 5 connection options. So that's kind of like where I'm at personally. And I just think my priorities have changed. It used to be work, right? When we were single, it was like, what's the new business that we're starting? What is the new thing that we're learning? And not to say that's not important, because I'm still training to be a doula, but I've just realized that's not as important right now as attending to my family. So it's interesting because my values have changed a little bit since I've gotten married, and making work work. So when I'm done, I'm done. And being okay with the fact that if I have to like cancel or let things go, which I know that's not everybody's, they don't have that privilege, but thankfully I do right now. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I love that. I mean, what I pulled from that was making sure that you do like these self audits, you know, these self inventory, where you really take that time to say, okay, my life is spinning all around me, but I got to make sure that I'm anchored inside of me. And what are my needs? And what are the different ways that I can get my needs met, to make sure that the way I show up to my husband, to my daughter, and even to myself is something that brings about wellness and peace. So I get it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think you had asked like what's an art directive that you can do, and something that's very easy is just taking a plate out, like a paper plate or a regular plate, and filling it with things that you need, right? Like, so maybe you can look at magazines, but maybe it's like you need a healthy meal. Maybe you need a nap. Maybe you need a massage, or maybe you need time with a friend, right? Like putting all of those things on a paper plate and then hanging it somewhere and making sure, am I attending to these things in my week, in my day, in my month? Just so you can have a visual of what it is that you need and making sure that you get it.
Okay, and
With the plate.
I'm not sure if it happened on your end, but on my end, something skipped. So I think for people who may have missed that skip, the next question was, what is an art exercise that the viewers can do to bring about wellness? And Lydia, you said just briefly kind of run that through one more time.
Sorry. So it's like, what do I need to fill my plate so that I can feel
Mhm.
emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually full or well, right? And so I usually take some magazine collages and identify what I need. Is it a nap? Do I need time with a friend? Do I need break from my child? Do I need a girls' night out? But filling my plate, whether it be a paper plate or real plate, with what I need, and then posting that somewhere where I can see it and making sure that I'm attending to those things, that I'm in a month doing all of those things, or in a week
Mhm.
doing all of those things. And I try to do it. I mean, there's some things that obviously with the COVID-19 and being quarantined, I can't do it. Like kicking it with girlfriends right now, that's just not possible. Or maybe it is in a creative way, but figuring out what I can
Mhm.
practically do.
Yeah, because we do our house parties sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
Marshall Polo, there's so many avenues now to do it virtual.
yeah, and I like how at the end, not only do you put down your needs, but you put deadlines. And I think that kind of can help people with being accountable for making sure that you have follow through there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so as we get ready to wrap it up, one thing that I ask every guest is to share one empowering message that you would like to leave with our community viewers.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer.
Come on, Lydia, you supposed
um,
to.
you know what? I always tell people like contemplation is so key to a person's relationship with God. And if you don't know what that means, it's like being able to listen and receive, knowing his voice, whether it be through a sermon or whether it be through the Bible verses or whether it be, you know, through a donkey, I guess, but like being able to listen to God and hear what he has to say. So if anything, I feel like if you don't do anything else, like take some time to learn what that means and to practice that, because I feel like that is the key to everything else: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and relational well being.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. See, you always seem to pull things right out of the hat, but it has such a powerful meaning to it. So again, Lydia, thank you so much for imparting all of your skill and knowledge, enlightening us about both art therapy and spiritual counseling. That was just, I mean, that was definitely helpful for me and gave me some ideas of maybe what I want to bring into the session as well. So thank you. I hope the viewers were able to take something away from that as well. And till next week, everyone stay blessed, stay well, and stay safe.
Thank you, Corrona.
Thanks, Court. I'm glad it was refreshing. All right.